This video will go over the volume of pyramids and cones. The volume formula for both pyramid and cones is 1/3 capital B times H, where the capital B represents the area of the base, and that the H is the vertical height. If you look at the diagrams that I have, and you're going to want to do a little bit of drawing on the ones in your notes, but the height starts at what's referred to as the apex and drops straight down perpendicularly to the base. This is the height that you're going to be using. In some particular diagrams, they give you what's called the slant height. The reason why it's called slant height is if you unfolded this pyramid, every triangle has a base and a height, but as you fold it up into itself to come back to the top of that pyramid, that height of the triangle here is referred to as slant height, having the L in the word slant. We're not using slant height. You may be given slant height in some questions, and you'll need to use Pythagorean theorem. When the height is dropped, this length will be half of the length of that base. Other thing to mention when we're talking about this capital B, in this particular case, I have what's called a square pyramid, but thinking that that bottom shape could be a triangle or a hexagon or a pentagon or other things of that nature. Thinking about a cone is essentially a circular pyramid. So when we talk about a circular pyramid, the base will always be a circle. So instead of needing the capital B here, we can use 1/3 pi r squared h, because this pi r squared is the area of that base. Again, add to your drawing of your cone and be careful in problems. We need the height from the apex straight down to where it meets the center of that circle perpendicularly. This slanted height here, even though it's given to you, will not be used in the formula volume calculation. One last note down here is it says that the volume for oblique solids is the same as the volume for right solids. All right, finding the volume. Let's begin. Volume equals 1/3 capital B H. So I have 1/3. This base down here, only one number was given, and a lot of times students will say, well, wait a second, things aren't marked, it looks rectangular, but the fact that nothing else is given means that it's going to be a square pyramid. So to find the area of that base, to find area of a square, it's going to be 40 times 40. Think about length times width, or base times height. What we need, though, is the height of the entire shape. It's this H right here that is missing. The length from the center over to the side is 20. It's half of that whole 40. And they gave us that the slant height is 25. So I'm going to use this particular triangle, this 20, this height, and this 25, to set up Pythagorean theorem. So, let's see, double check all of my calculations, but I'm pretty sure that it's going to be 15. So grab your calculator, 1/3 times 40 times 40 times 15 should end up with 8,000. And we're in feet to the 3rd power. All right, for the cone. This is an oblique cone. But the formula, the volume formula, is exactly the same. Volume is equal to 1/3 capital B H, but in this particular case, because it's a cone, the area is pi r squared for a circle, and then the height that they gave us was 4. Plugging in our numbers gives us 1/3 pi. The radius is 2 squared times the given height, which is 4. I know that 2 squared is 4. 4 times 4 is 16. So I end up with 1/3 times 16 pi. Now if you type this in your calculator, you're going to get a decimal. Even if you do 1/3 times 16, you're also going to get a decimal. I'm just going to leave it as 16/3 pi. Letter C. Letter see is also a pyramid. However, its base is not triangular or square. So count how many sides it has. I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it is a hexagonal pyramid. Volume is going to be 1/3 area of the base times the height. The area of the base is the hexagon, and we find area of a hexagon by doing 1/2 apothem times perimeter. And then we still need the height of the entire shape. So it's going to go over here. So I have 1/3 for the volume formula. To find the area of the base, it's 1/2. Look at this hexagon down here. They gave you apothem as 2 square root 3, and they told you that side length was 24, so the perimeter is 24 times 6. I'm sorry, it's 4 times 6, which is 24. And lastly, we need to calculate that height. So think about starting at the apex of the pyramid, dropping it straight down to the center, and then we're going to go over. So this one will have a length of 2, a slant height of 8, and we're calculating that height there. So I did a squared plus b squared equals c squared. So that's going to give me -4 minus 4, h squared equals 60. If I square root 60, it's going to give me a decimal. I'm just going to write it here as the square root of 60 because that's the height here of the whole thing. And then grab your calculator. Oops, I have one thing written wrong. This needs to be 1/2 here. All right, so I have 1/3 times 1/2 times 2 square root 3, close that parenthesis after the square root, times 24, all times the square root of 60. And I ended up with 107.3 meters squared. Nope, meters cubed, assuming I made no errors. The next one. This one is a composite solid because it has 2 shapes. It has a cone is the larger shape, and then it has half of a sphere on the inside. A cone is 1/3 pi r squared h minus, we need half of the sphere, which is going to be 4/3 pi r cubed. We need to plug things in. The radius of the cone goes from the center all the way to the edge of the cone, so it's 10. And then the height here is 24. And I need to subtract away half of that sphere. 4/3 pi times, the radius of the sphere is different. If you notice that there's this like border around, so it's 8 to the 3rd power. All right, I'm going to do a little bit of simplifying first. So 10 squared is 100 times 24. So 1/3 of that, I ended up with 800 pi minus, if I do 8 to the 3rd power, that gave me, this gave me 512. And I'm going to multiply it by 4/3, and then again by 1/2. Oh, that's looking pretty messy. This is what my calculator is giving me, but I think I'm just going to put it in decimals because it is not nice at all. So we could condense those a little bit, but let's kind of avoid the pi's here because it's not helpful. Let me scroll down my page. So what if, instead of worrying about leaving it in terms of pi, what if we just started with the 1/3 and typed it all the way out? So 1/3 times pi times 100 times 24, and then subtract away from it the 1/2 times 4/3 times pi times 8 raised to the 3rd power. And I ended up with this number right here, again assuming that I made no errors, in millimeters to the 3rd. All right, 2 more problems. Turn the page over. You have one that's asking you, it says, suppose you revolve a plane region completely about the y-axis to create a solid figure. Describe the solid. Well, the y-axis is right here. So if you rotate it around, you're going to end up with a cone. In this particular case, your cone has a radius of 2 and a height of 4. So volume is 1/3 pi r squared h, 1/3 pi times 2 squared times h. This is going to give me 4. 4 times 4 is 16. So I'm going to call it 16/3 pi. So it's pretty much like the one that we saw on the front page. You just had to revolve the triangle in order to see it. Last one. It says find the value of x. This is a triangular pyramid. And I know that because this bottom is a triangle. We find the volume of a triangular pyramid by 1/3 capital BH. But since that capital B is a triangle, I can use 1/2 base times height, and then this h here is the vertical height of the whole thing. So plug in what you have and solve for what you don't. So I have 1/3 times 1/2. When you look at this triangle, notice that it's a right triangle. So we have a 9 and we have an x. So whether you want to write it that way or write it this way, the idea is that they gave us a base. So we have a base and we don't have a height, or vice versa, but we have a 9 and an x here. And then the height of the whole figure was given in here, right there in that dotted line, that little perpendicular in there, is 14. So what you need to do now is to simplify. What is volume? It told us. Oh, there. Volume is 126. So now we have an equation, and we can start simplifying things. All right, so half of 9 is 4.5. X times 14 times 1/3. Let's see what that'll happen in our calculator. If I do 4.5 times 14 times 1/3, so 1/3 times 4.5 times 14 gave me 21. So I have 21x is equal to 126. Divide both sides by 21. X is equal to 6. So we have a triangular pyramid with the triangle having base and height of 6 and 9, and then the entire pyramid has a height of 14. That concludes the video for this lesson. Please let me know if you have any questions.